This video is brought to you by these YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Hello everyone and welcome to the top 10 speed autoers on Bleach Brave Souls. First of all, I'm sorry it's been a little bit since I made a video. I've been out of town for the last week, but I'm back now and I figured why not start with the top 10. For this list, keep in mind that you can auto with pretty much anyone. The most important thing about autoing is how you actually build them, though without a doubt some characters are better than others. With that said, let's begin.
簡単には死なせないよ。さて、覚悟をしておくといい。生きて恥をさらす覚悟をね。
Now we're starting off with Tinosuka. Now I know I actually had him at number 10 last time I made this list. It's very rare for a character to end up at number 10 in the same list 2 years in a row. And in a lot of cases, most of the honorable characters would actually be above him. But Tinosuka has a lot of potential if his stats are high enough. He has a really high SP, he has Guard Break, he has Frenzy, he has Berserker at 40% and Bruiser at 40%, and his Strong Attack 2 is both a barrier move and a heal move, which greatly increases his survivability. Now his Strong Attacks are his hardest hitting weapons. He does after all have Berserker at 40 and Frenzy, and they have great range due to Havoc. That said, when he uses them, it's completely up to the computer, and strong attacks can very easily be wasted. Luckily, he also has really good normal attacks. They're ranged, they're really fast to fire, and thanks to the guard break, there's no need to worry about enemies guarding against them. That said, if you don't increase his stats high enough, he can very easily get overwhelmed, since he doesn't have poise, so he can be interrupted, and aside from those barriers, he doesn't really have anything to nullify enemy attacks. Aside from his no affiliation, which luckily right now there's not a lot of events that have no affiliation killers. Still, that's not enough, which is why I ended up placing him at number 10, since he is a very good autoer, but basically made out of paper mache once his defenses are down. Next up we have Shurin. Now I'm really glad they remade this character. The first time we got him, they gave him Bombardment, which pretty much sealed his fate. Luckily, the second time they gave him Flurry and a really high attack, as well as Bruiser at 20 and a normal attack damage link of 20%, increasing his overall to 40% before Flurry, and he has poise. He's also got Long Reach, which slightly increases the range of his normal attacks, and all of his attacks have a chance to inflict debilitating burn. Now they may not deal that much damage, but they do have pretty good range. His Strong Attack 3 is a full screen, his Strong Attack 1 is a beam shot that's the range of a full screen, and his Strong Attack 2 is a vortex move that surrounds him. He does have a low SP, but that Strong Attack 2 is very likely to inflict burn, and it doubles as a barrier, since it staggers any nearby enemy. Shurin is also no affiliation, which is great for autoing, and he's got an Arrancar killer, the second best killer in the game. To top things off, he's also completely immune to being frozen, and he can read Arrancar dodges, which is circumstantial but still good.
久しぶりにやってみるか。剣道ってのよ。終われんのじゃ。
Next up, we have the arena version of Kenpachi Zaraki. Now this Kenny also has a really high attack, as well as Bruiser at 40%, a normal attack damage link of 20%, Flurry, and Poise, meaning this guy hits hard. And he has the potential to hit even harder, because at low stamina he gains an additional 30% damage to all of his attacks. This not only helps his normal attack, thanks of course to the Flurry, but also his strong attacks, since he has a Berserker at 50%, and it goes all the way to 80% if his health is low. His strong attack 1 is a beam shot, his strong attack 2 hits a large area in front of him, and his strong attack 3 is a full screen. None of his attacks can be interrupted thanks to his poise, and they make him a great autoing character whether you chappy him or not. This Kenny also has a Soul Reaper killer, which is the best killer in the game, and he's got an ability that decreases the amount of damage he takes from Soul Reapers. Finally, this character has a last ditch survival ability, meaning if he were to get knocked out, he would just get back up, for the first time anyway. An ability that's useful anywhere, but really useful when it comes to autoing, since it's basically an extra life, or I guess 20% of an extra life, since that's how much health he comes back with. Still, it helps make him a really good autoing character.
いくよー、ロクスクリッカ大戦乱舞。
Next up, we have the Orient Society version of Odahime. Odahime has a really high attack, as well as a plus 30 Bruiser, Flurry, and Poise. She can inflict debilitating lacerate with all of her attacks except for her strong attack 2, and because she has Flurry, her normal attack doubles, meaning it hits 8 times total per enemy, increasing the likelihood of inflicting lacerate. This is great because if an enemy is lacerated, she deals 40% more damage across the board. Her strong attack 1 is also very useful for inflicting it because it's a pushback move. It not only hits a higher number of times, but also pushes enemies back, which is something you want for a ranged character. Her strong attack 3 is a full screen attack, and her strong attack 2 is a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot and then hits them one final time. This is useful for two reasons. It not only groups enemies together, the perfect setup for a flurry character, but it's also a boost move. So once they're pushed together, her attacks will deal more damage for 20 seconds. In addition to that, she also gets an increase in defense for 20 seconds, and since she has a strong tech recharge link, she will get this boost move more frequently. Odahime also has a human affiliation, which, like the no affiliation, has very few events with enemies with human killers. And with the Soul Reaper killer being the most common one in the game, it means you can safely take her to a lot of places. That said, she may not be the fastest autoer, since she is ranged and doesn't have guard break, but she's definitely very reliable.
挽回デーモン大関なれ
Next up, we have the fierce battle version of Ikaku. Now, it's very easy to overlook this guy, but he's actually a very good character. Like, really good. He's got a really high attack as well. He's got an attack of 777, and he's the luckiest in the... I did not notice that. I'm looking at his stats right now. I'm probably just gonna leave this in. Very clever, K-Lab. I never noticed. Anyway, he's got a really high attack as well as Bruiser at 40%, Flurry, Poise, and a boost move Strong Attack 2 with Enhancer, which not only increases the amount of damage he can deal, but also the amount of damage he can take, which was already a lot, since he has a damage reduction soul trait of 16% that can be stacked up to 76%. Ikaku also has a last-ditch survival ability, bringing him back from the dead if he were to go down, and he's completely immune to being weakened. And honestly, that's about it. I kind of just breezed by all of this stuff, but there's not really much more to say about this character. He's just really, really good at autoing. It's like he was built for it.
おかしだこっちにも全部私のもんだ
Next up, we have the Halloween version of Lilynette. Now, this character is definitely one of the slowest characters on this list, since she's a ranged character without guard break and nothing to really boost her stats. That said, she still deals a tremendous amount of damage. She has a really high attack as well as Bruiser at 20%, Flurry, and Poise. She also increases the combo incredibly fast, allowing for more damage, since each of her attacks hits 4 times for a total of 16 times per enemy. The reason she's on this list so high though, is because she's very difficult to take out. Like I said, she's a ranged character, so she deals all her damage from a distance, but she also has a damage reduction soul trait of 16%, something that's not too uncommon for autoing characters, as well as something we've seen on this list on a couple characters already, but she's also got a heal move for her strong attack too. Build her correctly and she would be taking a fourth of the damage she would normally take, and once she gets low enough, she can just heal it, making her very, very difficult to take out, as well as very difficult to interrupt thanks to her poise ability. Like I said, the only real downside to this character is that she's a little bit slow, but even then her normal attack does pierce and it does deal a lot of damage, so slow is really just a relative term. It's just really compared to most of the other characters on this list.
我が剣筋 K に見切ることなど叶わぬ
Next up, we have the 5th anniversary version of Byakuya, or really the 5th anniversary version of Byakuya's Strong Attack 2. This guy is a very, very good auto, and arguably the most useful one in this entire list, since he has both a Soul Reaper and a Hollow Killer and Sharpshooter, meaning that you can pretty much take him anywhere that Soul Reapers or Hollows are enemies, and he would do just fine. Byakuya has a really high SP as well as Berserker at 40%, Bruiser at 40%, Frenzy, Havoc, and a Strong Attack Recharge Link of 14%, meaning his Strong Attacks not only deal a lot of damage but also have great range. His Strong Attack 3 is a hybrid Vortex move and his Strong Attack 1 hits every enemy in front of him, but that Strong Attack 2 is the real star. It's a 2-part Seeking Vortex move that hits hard at the beginning and then hunts down the enemies. It not only deals a lot of damage thanks to the Berserker and Frenzy, but also staggers the enemies, allowing Byakuya to deal more damage from a distance. It also recharges at the rate of a regular Strong Attack 2, meaning that if you play your cards right, you would be able to use the Strong Attack every 7 seconds, which is great considering the actual move itself lasts for about 5 seconds. Now this is one of the many things that makes this character so amazing, and one of the main reasons he's so high up on the list. That said, it's also the main reason I can't really put him any higher. You see, that Strong Attack 2 is great, but unfortunately when you're autoing you're not in control of when your character uses it. So yes, you can use it every 7 seconds, but chances are the AI probably won't. And there's also a very good good chance it'll waste it on 1 or 2 enemies at the very end of a room, which is pretty wasteful. Not to mention that if this Byakuya gets frozen or stunned, it's pretty much over. Since he's got no immunities, and in a very difficult quest, that's pretty much the downfall of any high SP character, since you can't really build them with a damage reduction build. Still, even with these weaknesses, he is one of the best characters to take when autoing, since you have so many options with him. And even though the AI doesn't know the best time to use a strong attack, it's still very likely that that vortex move will be active, and it's not like it's his only way to fight if it isn't.
こんなもんじゃねえ。ここからだろ。楽しくなるのはよ。
Next up, we have the Spirit Society version of White Ichigo. This character has a really high attack, as well as a normal attack damage link of 20%, a bruiser of 30%, flurry, and poise. Most importantly though, he's got guard break, making him an insanely fast character, since when combined with his poise means that he cannot be stopped. Except of course if he's frozen or paralyzed. White can also inflict debilitating weakening with all of his attacks, and he's very likely to do so with his strong attack too, since it's the vortex move that surrounds him. It also helps stagger the enemies, keeping them at bay, and it deals a decent amount of damage thanks to his plus 40 berserker. His other 2 strong attacks also have great range, with the beam shot strong attack 1 that encompasses the area of a full screen attack, and a full screen strong attack 3. If at any point any of these attacks inflict weakening, he deals 20% more damage across the board, which again is pretty likely thanks to that strong attack 2. This Ichigo also has a strong attack recharge ability, which lets him spam these attacks more frequently. Finally, he's completely immune to being burnt, which is just useful for autoing since there's a lot of floors that are on fire. Now unfortunately he doesn't have long reach, and he does have a no affiliation killer, which isn't terribly uncommon, but it's not as common as the big 3, Soul Reaper, Hollow, and Rancor. Don't let that stop you from taking him to events with those enemies though, since thanks to that flurry, poise, guard break combination, he can pretty much take on anything.
本を読む片手間に木を育てただけさ。苗木の時からいろいろな手を尽くしてね。まだ終われんのじゃ。
Next up, we have the Can't Fear Your Own World version of Tsukushima, who, let's just get this out of the way, doesn't have a good killer. He has a Stern Ritter killer, which is probably the second least used in the entire game, right after Zero Division. This is because he's mostly used as a PvP character. That's not to say he's not an excellent PvE character though, since he can be built as a really good autoer. He has a really high attack as well as a plus 20 bruiser, flurry, and poise. Now yes, his bruiser is on the low end of most of the other characters on this list, tying with Lillinette, but his strong attack 2 is a boost move that increases his attack, defense, and focus by 33% for 20 seconds thanks to Enhancer. In addition to that, it's also a vortex move that surrounds him, staggering nearby enemies. His other 2 strong attacks are also useful thanks to his berserker being at 50%, and his strong attacks 1, 3, and normal attack can all inflict drain, which is the real reason he's so high up on this list. For those of you who don't know, Drain takes the enemy's HP and heals Tsukushima for 20% of his health. Give him the right accessory and that will double, meaning that he will heal for 40% of his total health anytime he inflicts drain on an enemy. Combine that with his damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%, and you've got one of the hardest characters to kill in the entire game. Now because that killer won't be multiplied, it's likely he's also going to be on the slower side, unless his stats are high enough. Plus he's got long reach, so that'll definitely help too. Tsukushima is also completely immune to being weakened, and for story reasons, he's also classified as no affiliation, not human, which I guess for autoing purposes kind of mean the same thing, since they're both the best affiliation to be when you're autoing, but whatever. He's got a few more abilities, but they are PvP abilities, so we're not going to go over them on this list. Just know that as far as PvP characters go, he's one of very few high-ranking ones that can also do well in PvE. Now before I get to number 1, here are a few honorable mentions.
プラソリスケルダ・デル・ディアブロ
書を立てて弔うてやろう。恩師が二度と生まれてこぬよ。天体殺量。
波と戯れるのもいいものだな。一緒に飲むか？
手荒な方法で行くしかないかの。
どいつもこいつもトロトロしやがって。行くぜ。
これで終わりにしよう。受け取れ。
そんな。
Now I'm sure you all guessed number 1 at this point just because it's kind of obvious. It's Jushiro, the Super Crazy Good One edition. Now this Jushiro not only has a really high attack, but also bruiser at 40%, a normal attack damage link of 20%, and an ability that increases the amount of damage speed captains deal with their normal attack by another 20%, increasing his overall damage output for his normal attack by 80% before flurry. Which is insane, but it doesn't stop there since his strong attack 2 is a boost move with enhancer. This increases his attack, defense, and focus by 33% and lets him deal a lot more damage. In addition to that, it's also a barrier move, and he has multi-barrier at 2, increasing the amount of barriers he gives to the team by 2, meaning anytime he uses it, he gets 5 free barriers that stay on him until he gets hit 5 times or 20 seconds go by. And it's very likely that the 20 seconds are going to be the ones that end the barriers, since Jushiro hits so hard that he's likely to take out enemies before they even get to him. Not only thanks to that crazy high multiplier and flurry, but also because of guard break, the combination of which mowed down everything. Jushiro can also inflict drain with all of his attacks except for his strong attack 2, and he's very likely to do so, since his normal attack hits 4 times per hit per enemy, thanks to the flurry. This greatly increases his character's durability, since he will be constantly healing. To top things off, he's also completely immune to being frozen, which is great because like paralyzation, it's one of the 2 big killers when autoing. He is one of the best autoers we've ever had, and will likely be the best speed autoer we have for a very long time. Though I've said that before, and Kayla proves me wrong immediately, so we'll see. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.